Evictions of indigenous people known as Ogiek, who inhabit the Mau forest in the Great Rift Valley in Kenya, have been happening ever since British colonialists first forced many of them into reserves in the 1920s.
In the history of Mau, there have been 17 evictions. 15 evictions targeted the Ogiek. They were being removed, and the settlers created land.
But the Ogiek community now faces a new threat: environmentalism. Human rights activists accuse the Kenyan government of illegally driving hunter-gatherers off their land to pursue profits from carbon offsetting schemes. In the Nairobi Declaration made during the Africa Climate Summit in September 2023, Kenya was among the countries calling for decarbonization of the global economy, describing it as an opportunity to contribute to equality and shared prosperity.
The restoration and expansion of Africa's natural carbon sinks are not just an environmental imperative, in fact. They are an unparalleled economic gold mine.
But this isn't how things are working out for the Ogiek, as they are evicted from their land, often with no compensation or reparation.
Kenya government has now gotten engaged in this, the climate movement and carbon credits and carbon trading. And this is a whole new danger that faces not just the Ogiek but other indigenous people around, because it requires the removal of people. We as scientists claim that carbon sequestration is about plants and plant cover and tree cover. Tree cover can exist with people living under it, but they always want to take the land. That's why they always call for removal of people in terms of this carbon credit thing. And the unfortunate case for Kenya is that our government has gotten actively engaged in it as a matter of policy. Even around the world where carbon credits, carbon trading is done, it's not done by government. It's done by brokers and conservation organizations, etc. But it's a very risky thing when it's done by government, because it exposes the people to exploitation by the regulator. Government should be the one telling people, hey, stop, you can't remove those people there. The government should be the one regulating carbon trade and asking the hard questions.
At 400,000 hectares stretching across 6 counties, the Mau complex, made up of 22 indigenous forest blocks, 2 swamps and 13 rivers, is the largest indigenous montane forest in East Africa and Kenya's largest water tower. An elevated forest ecosystem that holds water reserves and supplies it to rivers, lakes and groundwater. The Mau complex was among the first forests to be given the status of a water tower in early 2000. It is critical for climate conservation, but has also been a source of conflict for many decades.
Conservation is very much a human issue and remains one of the areas where human rights are sort of on the back burner. I don't think it's necessary to evict the Ogiek from the forests, that the Mau forest complex where they've lived for generations, because they've been stewards of this place for thousands, I assume thousands of years, since pre-independence days. But they're victims of a system that has been created outside Kenya, and I mean by the former colonial power, created outside Kenya, brought in, imposed during colonialism, and which we have kept intact with all its problems since then. Now, the system imposed is one that cannot absorb or cannot understand people living amongst wildlife, people living in a forest.
The Ogiek claim is an unsettled claim. It is a claim that has been there for more than 100 years and it has survived. The people who came through a government program or a government project. So their claim is to the entitlement of the government project. That project is what was faulted by the court, that you cannot do a population transfer politically to solve other people's economy in a wrong way, and even destroy a vital ecosystem. Mau is a vital ecosystem.
Kenyan conservation policies have historically been formed based on political interest, and over the years, there has been extensive land grabbing of the Mau forest for political interests.
Forests and forest land has always been used as political currency for many decades in Kenya. And so the grabbing, if we can call it grabbing of forest land, has never been done by small people, the so-called small people, peasants and villagers, this kind of thing. It's always the well-connected, the powerful, etc. So again, the presence of the Ogiek prevented that from happening in this particular forest. You can't grab a place with people in it. It is more difficult.
While Kenya's government blames the destruction on the people living inside and close to the forest, conservationists like Mordecai say the problem is a lack of clear environmental policies and the temptation of carbon credit profits.
The government needs to find itself a strong and clear policy position, because what we have now is complete dissonance between what they say, what they do, what external people are telling them to do, what external brokers, carbon credit brokers are telling them to do. The danger to water catchments in Kenya largely is failure of government policies in management of those catchments. And I mean even things like building roads. Currently, the government has just approved the building of a road across the Aberdare forest. So if we are protecting water catchments, this is the same government claiming to protect water catchments. What's more harmful, the Ogiek living in Mau or the road across Aberdare? I've been in the environmental field for 25 years. I still do not understand or recognize what Kenya's environmental policies are.
We have 12 rivers that comes out of Mau. Those rivers are becoming seasonal. How do you expect the downstream communities to get water when you have interfered with the upstream, and then you refuse to think? Then you go out to the world talking about selling credit, carbon credit, while actually we have planted the wrong trees that cannot even address the issues of carbon credit. So there's misadvice within the higher ranks of the government.
The most recent eviction of the Ogiek people took place in late 2023. This is despite existing court orders prohibiting such evictions. Currently, over 100 people live in forest camps. Many have fled the area to nearby villages, fearing for their safety.
Violence is a very unfortunate outcome of natural resource policies or lack thereof. But it is something that is very likely if we do not follow any clear path. This is not only facing the Ogiek, it's facing the Ma-speaking people, I mean the Samburu and the Maasai in the rangelands, who are losing their resource rights.
The biggest injustice is actually assimilation. The Ogiek are now within the assimilation. All employment opportunities have been taken, including representation. Our identity has been diluted. Our economy has been diluted. We have become refugees of ourselves, now talking about how our forefathers lived instead of being focused to the future. So we need now to speak about environmental injustices, because we should not be the last generation. Hata kama Yesu anakuja, if Jesus were to come, which we don't want him to come earlier, but we have to address the environmental needs and challenges that we are facing.